Thank you so much for joining us. This is Jessica Motter, your host of the Empowering Freedom podcast. I am also the author of Love Life, Be Life, Share Life book and a health and wellness entrepreneur. I'm so excited to introduce to you my friend today, Dawn. She and I have known each other for a number of years. We connected through networking, and here we are today doing a Zoom, even though we're like probably a few minutes away from each other. It's just easier with my busyness.
Yes.
To be able to connect with you today on this Zoom, and we'll have this on YouTube, on podcasts, all over social media, so you can hear Dawn's amazing story. So Dawn, I'm excited. If you want to just share, because obviously I know more about you than most people do.
Yeah.
You want to share with us just a little bit about your past,
Sure.
where you've come from, where you are right now,
Mm-hmm.
to do.
Yeah. So my name is Dawn, and I am a single mom of two beautiful kids, one 20, one 16. And my work history has kind of been all over the place. It's kind of the mix, I think, for probably a lot of people my age who have a mix of career and a hodgepodge as well, mixed in with motherhood. I was fortunate enough to stay at home with both of my kids in their infant and younger years. And my first full-time job as a mom after my kids were born was actually with a very good friend of mine, her company, and she they were in the process of a very large move, and she needed somebody to work with her because they were bringing a lot of their functions in office that the warehouse that they had been at before took care of. Order processing and logistics and things like this, and coordinating with the warehouse. So that was my job. So I had to learn, customized software, on the fly, and, kind of doing all that kind of thing. And it was a fantastic experience. It was grueling at first, it really was, but it was high energy, and it was long hours at first, which I was not used to. But I really enjoyed the job, and found that I am the kind of person who enjoys being a content expert. I like knowing things really well and being able to solve mysteries and help people answer questions that because they're not as familiar with, a particular product or a particular software, what have you, knowing how to get that information that they need. I'm also what somebody kindly coined an optimizer. I love efficiencies. I really, really detest duplicated work, redundant stuff. If somebody else is doing it, I don't want to do it too. In the same time, I don't want what I put out to be insufficient so that somebody else has to redo it themselves. So that's kind of, and that kind of makes for an interesting mix of things when you're job seeking, because that's kind of difficult to convey in a resume. It's a little easier in an interview, but it's kind of tough. So right now, I am actually between jobs. I left that first job. The company was purchased by another company, and I was hired very graciously on the word of my then supervisor, and they took me on, and I did well. But the role that I left had become something of, it's kind of harsh to say, but a bit of a dead end. There really wasn't anywhere for me to go from there, without taking somebody's job, which I really didn't want at that point. So that direction wasn't an option either. But I found myself in a job here recently that did not fit. And so for my own sake, for my own mental health and physical health too, I left that job in December and am currently job seeking. So, and I'm, digging deep and finding my why, and trying to, I'm networking. I want to meet a lot of people. I want to learn about their industries. I'm not after being the person who goes to somebody and says, "Hey, do you know a job opening?" I don't want to do that. I want to connect with people. I'm very much a people person. I'm an extrovert, and I want to get to know the people, especially around me. I'm in the Kansas City area. And and just get to know the broader community well, so that I can connect people and become that source of information. And because as somebody has said, a very wise person has said, that when we move to a new area and we say to a friend, "Hey, I'm new to the area. I need a pediatrician for my kids." So who do you go to and why?
Mhm.
People, that's networking.
Right.
That's what we're doing, and it's natural, and that's all we're doing. Is what do you enjoy about your job? What do you enjoy about your industry, and why? Are you looking for a change? And not that I'm going to be able to suggest a change for them, or connect them to any job. I mean, how would I feel if somebody came to me and said, "Hey, do you know of a job opening? Well, tell me your story. What are you about?" And so that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of why I've been doing this podcast, is because I'm like, okay, I know I'm good at connecting people,
Mhm.
opportunities, or to people, or just to give them avenues to share their story, because it's like, okay, you might be looking for a job. But like we talked about earlier, like a lot of times our job has become our identity.
Yes.
So when
Yeah.
you are sudden, like living a new life where you're like, okay, for my physical and mental health, I need to do something different, because what I did this last whatever amount of time isn't working for me.
Mm-mm.
And
Mhm.
realize that, and like you said, you want your why, you want to have purpose and be
Yep.
passionate, because at the end of the day, like, we're only here on earth for so much time, and we really don't know how long that time is. And
Right.
so, we were talking about some of the experiences you had in the church and things like that, and
Mhm.
that class I really took really did help me with that, because
Mhm. Mhm.
I realized that I was doing a lot in my own strength before. Like, I
Mhm.
was trying to be like the powerful, strong person, but yet
Mhm.
I, I would just let God have hold of this. He could do
Mhm.
more, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
I
Mhm.
just with
Yeah.
someone,
And
yesterday. Yeah.
it's that whole idea of uh, you know um being an abundant thinker, putting my very best out there, and trusting that that will be multiplied, and knowing that it will, because that's just, we don't, it's counterintuitive. We think, "Oh, this is not enough. I have to give, 150%." And we don't have 150%. We have, everybody has the same amount of time. We don't all have the same resources, but we all have the same amount of time. And so we get to choose how we spend our time and where we invest our time. And so putting that information, or putting that investment of time into myself, makes me a better employee, makes me a better mom, makes me a better friend. And I have said that for years and years and years. One of the things that I was really worried about when I became a mom was that I would lose myself, because I'd seen it happen in my life. My mom had poured so much of herself and her identity into us kids, that when we left home, it was more than just emptiness. It lasted for years and years and years, that she was just lost, and tried to live vicariously through us kids. And it was diminishing. It was difficult to, I think we may have lost connection.
Yeah, I'm still hearing you. So keep
Okay.
going. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it was kind of not a great time for her, but it showed me, okay, I need to be careful. And it's not that I didn't invest in my children. I did. And I pride myself on the really, really great kids that I have. I mean, that is a blessing. But their dad and I feel are really good parents, and we try hard, and we continue to invest in them, but not to our own detriment,
Right.
you know. And I realized that that's what I was doing with my job, you know. So now that now whether this next role that I have is, like my dream job, whatever that is, it might, as long as it, as I said earlier, as long as it's not soul sucking, as long as, and honestly, I think it's a buzzword right now, is as long as it's a cultural fit and a management fit, for me, that there's somebody that I can work with and for, who knows how to manage people,
Mhm.
and not, when I say that I haven't experienced that in the past, it's not because I thought I could do the job better, because I probably couldn't, because I've never managed people yet. But I think that there are obviously certain ways that are less problematic, than the ways that I have experienced.
Mhm.
And you don't ever want to burn a bridge, but at the same time, there's just people. I heard it said, and it's probably somebody really famous that I couldn't tell you who it is, so I apologize, I can't give credit, but people don't leave companies, they leave managers,
Mhm.
and I think that's because we think of and act like the our jobs are our chosen family, and we choose this family, so to speak, based on just a couple, maybe three, if we're lucky, interviews, and we're moving in with them, so to speak.
Right. Yeah. You get married
And
to someone who have
yeah,
more than it's probably married.
probably not. Yeah, exactly. And so you don't, that, I mean, we would go, oh my God, what are you doing? If somebody did that.
Right.
But we're, and I'm trying to balance the idea that I am, I'm sorry, I'm getting notifications. My phone is buzzing. Um, I'm I'm trying to balance the idea that there are limits to what I can expect from an employer. I can't expect them to be my emotional resource. That's not what they're there for. That's my job and my network of people and friends and family and so on and so forth. But I think we behave as if, and I think sometimes employers expect us to behave that in an emotional way, that some smaller companies especially are run like families instead of businesses. And the expectation of putting in lots of hours and not being paid for those hours. No. And a lot of times what's so difficult about it is that it's the unspoken expectation, the feeling that I have to stick with this and finish it. And sometimes it's internal. I have had those times when it's like, I don't want this hanging over my head. I'm going to bang this out, and I'm going to put in a little, some extra time that I've got. I know I'm not going to be paid for this extra time because I'm salaried. Um, it's not my expectation. That's different, but when it's an employer that's,
Expecting.
why didn't you get that done? You know,
Yeah. I remember when I was on maternity leave and my
yeah.
boss asked me if I could come into the office for a meeting because she wanted to look like she had more employees there. It wasn't just her during that time. And I'm like, people could understand. So it was like that image. But I'm
Mhm,
like, maternity leave. I mean, I gracefully said okay because I mean, she had given me more time. Either
mhm,
more time or she paid me percentage or whatever. Like, but she had worked with me a little bit on that because I wasn't expected to have any type of maternity leave.
uh-huh,
It was just a small business. And
right.
so I mean, she was trying to work with me, but then when she asked me to like come in on maternity leave, I was like, okay, sure. And I did
Uh,
it, right? Then to
right,
be
right.
hired a few weeks later, like, okay.
Mhm, right.
You know, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so, yeah,
It,
it
yeah. So I commend you for just leaving that because sometimes I'm the person who like waits till I was fired. So good for you for recognizing your mental and physical health.
yeah, yeah, this last role was, the bottom line is that it was just not a good fit. There, the I think there was a disconnect in the communication between the person who hired me, who was an upper level management, and the management that I was under, and some of the structures that needed to be in place for me to do the job I was hired to do were not in place. And when that was discovered, I was like, okay, when and I didn't have any oversight over those changes. So no power or clout to make or implement anything to get the ball moving. And there was nothing communication was pretty bad, and so it
Yeah.
just was overall, it just, a lot of different reasons. And it's not that it's bad company, it's not a bad company.
Right.
um it's
Communication is just so important, I think, in relationships and business and companies with employees, with management. On at
mhm,
the end of the day, if there's not communication in a marriage, if there's not communication, and and I'll be honest with you, I'm not the best communicator. Here I am communicating on a podcast, but when it comes to relationships, like,
mhm,
and things like that, like in the past, I am that person that just shuts down and doesn't say anything. And I internalize and I just do what I need to do.
right,
Um, own. And I don't communicate those things to other people. If they've
mhm,
or they've said something, that just
mhm,
didn't, I don't communicate those things and my feelings. And so
right,
I'm working on
right,
that. A lesson for me.
yeah,
But yeah, it's so important in everything. Is there anything you want to share as far as like what your next steps like in a job, dream,
yeah,
community,
yeah.
like where would you like to see yourself? Like what things are important, like your values? Like what are values of
Mhm.
yours that you recognize?
Right, right. Um, and that is the part that I am currently investigating. This state that I'm in is fairly new. It's only a few weeks old, and of course, over the holidays. Excuse me, I need to cough. I was on a plane, went to Florida, and got a nose full of tree pollen that's blooming down there, very high. And I came home with like full blown allergies.
Yeah, my husband too.
Oh
Yeah,
my goodness. Ugh. So didn't get sick, just
yeah,
a
yeah,
little cough.
yeah. Same.
Anyway, so I'm digging kind of deep to discover what those are. If somebody said, well, is it this? Yes. Is it that? No. I could probably do multiple choice pretty well. But I think for me, the what gives me satisfaction in the job is solving a problem. Um, and you know being able and having access to the resources in order to do that. So like I was saying earlier, being a content expert.
So implementing change, if you think of like a optimistic way, like implementing
Mhm,
change,
mhm.
communication, obviously important.
Yep,
But like those are some of the things that you were talking about. High energy,
yep, yep.
abundant thinkers.
Yes. Well, and that's, and that's, it's like, I don't know the answer to that, but I can figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And, having the, either the people resources or the, technology resources and that kind of thing to find the answer. But I'll be truthful. I am also very fond. I'm a list keeper, a box ticker. So I like having task done.
Yeah.
I don't really like having a lot hanging over my head day to day. I like to have a portion, that sense of accomplishment in a day, at least somewhat. And I think that the positions that I have had most recently have been a mixture of those kinds of things, where I have the um, day-to-day, tasks of whatever, processing things, or different imports, exports, blah blah blah, that kind of thing. But then also the what's going on here, why didn't that work right? Or, oh, you know what, it would be great if I had this and this and this information, these reports in one. Or what if I could create something where I could have that update on a monthly basis, and figuring that out for either for myself or for somebody else, my boss, coworker, that kind of thing. And working in, I it's so weird. I like to work independently. I have been working remote except for this very last role, um my for almost 10 years, and I like remote. As opposed to a lot of people during the pandemic who are like, oh my God, how do you do this? So I enjoy remote work, but I also enjoy the communication is even more important in that kind of environment, because you're not overhearing anything. You're not, you
Right.
know, energy is definitely different. So you do have to do a lot of these kinds of communications, video calls and phone calls, and keeping in contact. And there were many times, in my last longer role, the one before this last one, where I would just call a coworker this way because I hadn't seen their face in a while.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh hi, how are you? That kind of thing. And so it's key. And so that, so I'm very much an independent, the self-starter kind of thing. I don't need I don't like micromanagement. I prefer a hands-off kind of thing. Once I'm up and going, I need somebody, like a supervisor or whatever, a trainer, who is willing to answer a lot of questions, because I ask a lot of clarifying questions because I want to get the details right. But so that I know, so that I can answer it myself later on. Um, but once I've got my feet under me that way, I'm very much an independent worker, but I enjoy people. So team environments works too for me. I don't know. I'm kind of anything, everything.
And if you're someone who likes to get things done, like it's nice being home so that like on your like 10-minute break, instead of just being there, sitting there, you're like, oh, I can throw laundry in.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, and
Yeah.
that's exactly what my this last role, I was commuting. So I wasn't remote at all. And I was amazed at the amount of stuff that I was doing right up until I started work, on my lunch break, on, the little things here and there that allowed me to, just pop up from my desk and run and feed the cat, or, so, and my productivity did not suffer at all,
Right.
so yeah.
Yeah. I'm this. I'm like, okay, what can I get done in 5 minutes? Let me just like
Mhm.
get it
Mhm.
done. Right.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
much.
Yep. Absolutely.
I totally agree on that. Well, I'm excited for you, and I'm going to post this up on the YouTube and
Okay.
LinkedIn
Great.
and everything, so you can, so Facebook, everything, so that you
Great.
can share away. And like, as you're, interviewing people and you're getting to
Yeah.
know like what you want,
Yeah.
um, opportunities may come.
Yep.
And if, hey, you've done a podcast interview, your first one, right? Like,
Yay. Exactly.
yeah, your resume, like,
Awesome. Yeah, exactly.
yeah. So
Exactly.
and I appreciate your time today.
Yeah.
Dawn,
Yeah.
know that we've known each other for quite some time. We don't get to spend enough time together.
No.
Enjoy our conversations, and
Yeah.
see each other in person more too. That was great. So
Yeah.
thank you
Yes.
so much. Have a great
Yes. Thank you. You
thank you.
too. Okay.